recording will be made available on the internet. No other persons are permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by council to do so. In relation to the Have Your Say, all speakers are requested to ensure their comments are relevant to the particular agenda item. The chairperson may withdraw the privilege to speak, or a speaker makes personal remarks or criticisms or uses abusive or inappropriate language. Speakers do not enjoy any special protection arising from comments made during this forum and should therefore refrain from making defamatory remarks or personal defamatory statements against any individual. Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, if you could set your mobile phones to silent or turn them off, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. We have 5 speakers today. I will be monitoring the 5-minute time limit very strictly, so we'll have a 5-minute max, and then that is it. There'll be an opportunity for some questions from the councillors, and then we'll roll into the next one. So our first speaker is Paul Mccann, speaking against item 9.1, New England Rail Trail Community Engagement. Paul, if you come up, please. Sorry, Paul, could you, there's a...
Okay, seems to work all right. Okay, to the Honourable Mayor and councillors present, I would like to thank those present for giving me the opportunity to be able to present my views on the New England Rail Trail community engagement process. I wish to focus on one of the issues raised during the community engagement process, which is that a tourist train will bring more visitors to our region than the proposed rail trail. Rail tourism is an expanding sector of the overall tourist market. People from across the country and from overseas are willing to pay for a rail experience, whether it be a short trip from Armidale to Uralla or Jimeric, or a longer tour with overnight accommodation, either on train or at a hotel or motel in a regional community. Since the year 2000, there have been numerous tourist trains visit the region, and I have recorded some of those visits with photographs of the train and people gathered on the platform to view the train. Steam trains in particular are very popular with locals and visitors alike. The only regular steam train that visits the Greater New England region is the Downs Explorer, which runs on one Saturday every month between Warwick and Wallangarra. This presents a wonderful opportunity for a tourist train run by a local group, such as New England Railway, to convey passengers between Armidale and Wallangarra, and maybe forming part of a tour by rail between Sydney and Brisbane. In my opinion, this will attract many visitors from across Australia and from overseas who wish to experience the best of what regional Australia and our region has to offer. A tourist train running to Wallangarra would also give local residents in the communities along the line the opportunity to experience the Downs Explorer steam train as well. Last year, the picnic train visited Tamworth and ran shuttle trips between Tamworth and Kattingal. The shuttle trips proved very popular, with all the scheduled trips being booked out weeks before the visit of the train. I produced a document showing photos of the train and the people gathered on the platforms, which I sent to all councillors. The operators of the picnic train and other tourist train operators had told me they would run their trains north of Armidale to Guyra and beyond if the railway was reopened. A rail tour company called Cruise Express is planning 2 tours in the coming months visiting Armidale. One tour in March will travel by train from Sydney to Wauchope and then to Port Macquarie. Then passengers will be transferred to Armidale via Dorrigo by road coach next day. The tour will then use a chartered train similar to the one New England Railway is restoring to return to Sydney by rail via Werris Creek, Dubbo, Golgong and Muswellbrook, stopping overnight at several towns along the way. Another tour in late April will commence at Ipswich and travel by Toowoomba and Warwick to Goondiwindi by a steam hauled train. From Goondiwindi, passengers will travel to Moree by road coach, then board the same chartered train used in the first tour to travel to Werris Creek, then to Armidale. From Armidale, the passengers will have to travel by road coach next morning to Tenterfield, then to Wallangarra to join a steam train to Toowoomba. They will complete their tour by road coach back to Ipswich and Brisbane. Southern Queensland is a rapidly growing area, and together with the Olympic Games to be held in Brisbane in 2032, there's a huge opportunity for our region to be a rail tourism hub for visitors from both Sydney and Brisbane. I have online brochures for those tours if any councillor wants to know more about the tours. Later this year, another tourist train operator based near Sydney is planning a rail tour to our region. Details are yet to be finalised for that tour. In conclusion, I'd like to say that, in my opinion, rail tourism has a lot to offer this region and the wider New England region if the railway between Armidale and Wallangarra is preserved and brought back into use, tapping into the southern Queensland tourism market. Alternative bike and walking tracks using back roads and corridors can further enhance the tourism opportunities in our region. A long-distance trail called the Great Escarpment Trail is currently being developed by Bushwalking New South Wales and Bushwalking Queensland and will traverse our World Heritage National Parks to our east between Barrington Tops and Boona in Queensland. We can have both a rail tourism hub and recreational trails in our region if the railway is preserved and alternative trails developed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Paul, would you just like to stay up there? Just whether councillors have any questions of Mr. Mccann. Any questions? Thank you very much, Paul.
Okay, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Next up, we have Mr. Matthew Tierney speaking against item 9.1, New England Rail Trail Community Engagement. Matthew will be coming to us via on the screen. Over to you, Matthew.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak via Zoom. I appreciate it very much, and for making the Community Engagement Executive Summary available, which I have read.
Excuse us, we need a little bit more sound if that can be organised by anyone.
Not loud enough. Testing, 1, 2, 3, hello. Hello, 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 hello.
Try again.
Are you there? Hello, 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 hello.
It's all good, Matthew.
Is that good? Where am I up to in my 5 minutes?
I'm very gracious. I'll let you start from scratch.
Okay, thanks. As I say, thank you very much for making it possible for me to speak to you this way, because I'm down here in Sydney. Now, in the executive summary, of course, much of the information there is either true or encouraging about the rail trail, or perhaps trivial. There's a lot of issues dealt with there to do with how it would be constructed, how weeds would be managed, fences built, biosecurity managed. These are the sort of problems, of course, that people who plan things and engineer things solve all the time. To me, the real problems with the summary as it's been given to us arise when you get down to the sections called rails or trails and the part about costs. How would the Northern Tablelands ratepayers want their money invested? And what would they regard as the best use for this asset? It's important to realise that what's there, the railway line, called variously by people the Great Northern Railway or the Main North Line or whatever, is an important asset, and in my view is not to be bundled off lightly. I'll just remind people by showing that map that we've possibly seen before. The section shown in red is the bit that is at
Matthew,
stake.
there is nothing is appearing on the screen.
Nothing is appearing on the screen. I thought this might happen. Well, it says it's sharing. It says it's sharing. Share screen. Share screen 2. Share. Still nothing there? Nothing?
We've got it.
Are you there?
We have it, Matthew.
It is there now.
Had it. It's gone again.
Yeah, that's because right, just a minute. Sorry about this. Is that visible now? Yes?
We can
Well,
see you instead.
What's that?
We can see you, not the map.
Yeah.
Matthew, you might have to bat on without the map. It would be...
Right, there it is again. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Good. I'm just very anxious to tell you that what's at stake with this whole proposal is the section in red. It's 214 kilometres of railway line. And unlike most of the other rail trail proposals you might have ever seen, it can't be just quickly categorised as a branch line that might be thought of as having no future. It's in fact part of a main railway line between Sydney and Brisbane that operated that way until well into the late 20th century. Now, the condition of the line is also important to think about. People are inclined to talk about it as if it's a piece of rubbish that should be thrown away regardless of what happens, because even if the corridor were being reused as a railway line, what's there now is useless. Well, that's simply not true. What's there is quite an important asset. There's a photograph taken of the rails at Black Mountain as they are today. And those rails are a very important asset. The sleepers might be in a bad condition from place to place. The ballast might need cleaning, but those things can be organised very easily. And I might just point out to you that those rails are the very same ones that carry our Armidale train down to Tamworth every day. There's no difference whatsoever, and they go all the way to the Queensland border. So it is quite an important asset. If the line were to be reopened, people have done thousands of different studies. It's hard to find a person in the Armidale Mall with a calculator who hasn't done a study on what it would cost to reopen the railway line to Queensland, with estimates from a few $1 million to, several billion. But when you look at it, the main issue would be the cost of bridges. My own view is probably you could get the line open to Queensland for less than $1 billion in a workable way. It's very unfortunate that those of us who want to protect the line have spent years trying to negotiate with the proponents of the rail trail to come up with something that wouldn't involve its destruction. But we haven't been able to, and so very sadly, I find myself having to oppose it. Now, there's a photograph of the XPT in 1984 at Black Mountain. It's not that long ago. This whole thing isn't just a museum piece. It has been used by modern trains in relatively recent times. There's a photograph of people waiting to greet the XPT at Tenterfield in 1984. There it is at Tenterfield in 1984. We're not talking about something that's just to be bundled off into an archive. Well, what about the consultation itself? I'm very sad that it seems to have taken in so few people. I went to one meeting where there were 9 people present, but we're talking about a railway that has attracted signatures on petitions of many, many thousands of people. Many thousands. There's a petition collected at the moment. It's got 8,000 signatures. We've got another one running at the Legislative Council.
Matthew, I'm going to pull you up there. You're 5 minutes plus grace. So thank you.
Can I show you this last photo?
No, you can't.
Oh.
That was all taken into account, Councillor O'Connor. Thank you. That's a wonderful picture. Can I ask, leave that picture up there. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Robinson.
You said it could be instated for less than $1 billion. Is that correct? And is there any advance on $1 billion, anything less than that? Because I'm surprised at the cost.
Well, I'm erring on the expensive end when I say that. I'm erring on the expensive end, but if you compare it with road projects on the coast, we're talking about modest amounts of money. I've got to tell you that when they did the Ernst & Young study in 2004 for the North-South Rail Corridor, which led to the choice of the Inland Rail as the North-South Rail Corridor through Narrabri and Moree, they said it was going to cost $3 billion. And the unconstrained model, the latest estimates are something like 17 billion. Governments, once they decide to invest in transport infrastructure, tend to spend money like water. It's more a question of what the people of New England think money should be spent on our corridor.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from councillors? Councillor O'Brien.
Matthew, could you just tell us what's going on here in this picture?
That's a public rally that was held at 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning in 2003 to respond to the government's proposal to take away the passenger train service to Armidale, which Armidale had famously won back in 1993. When the passenger train service, the Explorer, rolled into Armidale in 1993, it was the first time in the history of New South Wales that a regional passenger train service had been reinstated to a destination from which all trains had been withdrawn. It had never happened before. 10 years later, when a different government thought they might do the same thing, the Armidale community indicated that they were very, very defensive of their train. And I'm concerned that the 3,000 people you can see in that photograph have been effectively silenced in the community consultation process.
Thank you, Matthew. One more question and then we'll need to go to the next speaker. Anyway. All right. Thank you very much for your time, Matthew.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Bill Munsey, speaking for item 9.1, New England Rail Trail Community Engagement.
I'd like to say thank you to the Mayor, councillors, distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. Look, my journey on the rail trail began in 2014 with consultation with the committee that said, what do you think? I had concerns along with everybody else. They've been addressed along the way. We've been to countless meetings, either myself or my wife. We've talked about it. It's been discussed. I say to councillors here today, I can probably tell you the pros and I can tell you the arguments for. All I know is that we need to do something. We've spoken about it. It's been talked about. I'm not, I don't know how long you can keep talking about it for before you actually do something. I believe that there's money available, somewhere 5-6 million, I don't know, in order to get it underway. All I know is that our local Guyra community would certainly do with a cash injection in order to try and keep it afloat. Look, I'd love to see, the Historical Rail Society go down to Tamworth and pick up a load of people, bring them back up the hill, hop on the rail trail, work together, let's pull together, It seems to me there's them and us. Well, it's not like that. Let's pull together and make it work. I think it can. I really do. And I hope it does. I'd like to say that, we don't own the rail trail. I don't own it. The people own it, and it will always remain in public ownership. That's what, I'm going to lose probably financially by not being able to graze it. It doesn't worry me. I think it's there for the people. Let's use it for the people. Let people come and see it. Let's show them the people made the cuttings in the ground and all that sort of hard work that's been there. It's available for people to see. It worries me that the money's there. If council votes against it, it will go to another council, and they will win. We will lose. It's as simple as that. That pretty much covers my concerns. I've had concerns, and they've all been addressed at the meetings. I don't have any concerns. I have worries. We all got worries, but they've all been addressed as best we can do, and I believe we should move forward with this. And that's pretty much all I've got to say on the issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill. If you could just remain there, can I ask, do any councillors have any questions for Mr. Munsey? You're free to go. Thank you. Our next speaker is Don Carruthers, speaking on behalf of the Armidale Regional Ratepayers Association, and he will be speaking against item 9.1, New England Rail Trail Community Engagement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the council and the councils for the opportunity to address the subject of the proposed.
Excuse me, Don. Can I just get you to Mark?
Sorry. Some say we are totally against the rail trail, but that is not true. What we are concerned about is the lack of definitive information regarding the lifetime costing of the rail trail. To date, we believe there is no in-depth business plan or due diligence to the costs associated with the proposed rail trail. What has been put to the ratepayers is an open-ended tourism plan to close the rail corridor for a bike trail, being A, path beside the railway, B, cover the existing rail line with a suitable surface for bikes, or C, remove the existing railway line and sleepers and cover the ballast service for bikes. Any tourist development must have a full business plan to go forward. To date, there is no plan for B or C. The Armidale ratepayers, I said earlier, we're not totally against the rail trail. What is required for all ratepayers is the transparency and accountability as to the overall costing to be fully explained and documented to all ratepayers in the Greater Armidale region. The ratepayers deserve this information so they can make their own decision as to the rail trail prior to the council making their decision. A survey by the Armidale Express on the rail trail is on 82.4% against the rail and 16.3% for. This was in 2018, and things can change. I missed the page here somewhere. To date, no definite decision has been made for B and C. This thing is definitely out of the question. So where do we stand today? We've discounted A, and we can't have a path beside the railway. So we go to B or C. There is no decision on B or C, then how can we make a full working plan and costing to be formed on something that's still undecided? What are the costs involved for this construction of the rail trail? We note that council has a grant of $5.4 million under the Bushfire Local Economic Recovery Fund, BLRE. We ask to do what? Should rail trail become a reality, who will service the rail trail and at what cost? The ARA is not totally against tourism or tourist-related projects that will enhance the visitors to our region. We welcome them. The railway line here was opened in 1858 and ran through 1988, 130 years of service. The trouble is today that the coastal railway line has opened up and took away the virtue of the railway line. But the thing is, we want to know what the costs are to the ratepayers, and as I said earlier, we're not totally against the railway. What is required for all ratepayers is transparency and accountability for the overall costing to be fully explained and documented to all ratepayers in the Greater Armidale region. The ratepayers deserve this information so they can make their own decision as to the rail trail prior to council making their decision. As I said before, a survey was taken in 2018 by the Armidale Express showing 82% for and only 16 against. And that concludes my argument.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carruthers. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Witters.
Yeah.
just a question on a note that ARA probably has had a lot of discussions around the rail trail. In your discussions and options you've spoken about, have ARA noted the progress of the Glen Innes section of this railway? And this question probably goes to the other speakers in regards to this motion as well, because I know Glen Innes are a little bit further ahead in regards to their section. So has ARA noted that? And also the recent funding announcement, I think, came from the Feds in the last week or two of $5+ million. I could be wrong on those numbers for the rail trail. Has that been discussed in any of your meetings at ARA recently around this issue?
No, not at present. What we're asking is that, and as I said, this report, we want full disclosure of what the cost is going to be before a decision be made by the ratepayers of Armidale and Gyra. And we haven't got that. There's been no decision by council as to what they're going to do about the rails. They're going to be closed off or dug up and replaced or whatever.
Okay. I'm just going to look for clarity from just because it's a public forum from the General Manager. Has a decision been made already in regards to the development of a rail trail within our regional council area, or are we still at a point where we're deciding what to do?
Excuse me. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Witters. My understanding is the council, Armidale Regional Council, have committed to the rail trail. And based on that, and that was a decision that was taken a couple of years ago. They've also authorised a couple of times now, as recently as February last year, for staff to progress seeking grant funding, which is what's been happening. And the grant for $5.41 million that you mentioned was a grant that's recently been received through the summer bushfires funding. And the report that's up tonight is essentially just a report to council noting the engagement processes that have taken place around this since the decision around, if you want a rail trail, if we're going to have one, what do you see as some of the pitfalls and the challenges and the pros and cons that council needs to look at? And that was the basis for the engagement, the most recent engagement in the report tonight.
Councillors, any other questions? Thank you very much, Don Carruthers. Our next speaker is Mr. Andrew Korsh, speaking for item 10.1, the Armidale Regional Local Environmental Plan, etc., etc.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff and guests. I'm Andrew Korsh. I'm a 1983 model, born and bred Armidale local. I've been in business with my younger brother Mark for almost 20 years. I'd just like to start by saying I'm thoroughly excited to hear the news come out of this building that ARC are working towards the creation of 4,000 new jobs. This is a fantastic credit to all involved. And as recently elected councillors, I commend you all for setting such an ambitious target. I truly believe there are many exciting times ahead for the Armidale region, and I look forward to seeing Armidale's full potential reached. During the recent public exhibition period for the Armidale Regional Council Draft LEP, we engaged a professional to assist us in making a submission, and I'm appreciative of the opportunity to speak for my submission today. In June 2018, my brother and I and our partners took the opportunity to purchase 57 Newton Street. After almost 15 years in business as tenants, we decided to purchase our own premises to assist us grow our business, which 4 years later has been effective. The next step is to be able to handle the extra auto electrical workload over the coming years. Currently, one business owner is close to retirement and another is for sale. If the situation presents where we're able to take the next step and further grow, we need to have the space available to take on an apprentice or skilled labourers to undertake this extra work. Currently, we're constrained due to the available workspace. We need to be able to quickly grow to ensure there is minimal leakage of auto electrical services to outside the Armidale Regional Local Government area. Whilst working through the planning stages of the rebuilding of the premises, which was required to meet the building code, existing use rights made the development application process much more tedious to navigate. Many limitations were placed on the land due to the residential zoning and the existing rights use. We are hopeful our submission, if successful, will help alleviate these constraints for future applications. During the construction process of the rebuilding, we invested in the use of high quality materials to ensure we were sympathetic to current and future neighbours. Tilt-up panels were used rather than tin, as was previously the case, and the entire external wall cladding, as well as upgraded roof insulation. This would assist in the reduction of noise and enable the site to be used for many years to come in harmony with neighbours. As owners of 57 Newton Street, we are grateful and appreciative of the work conducted on our submission by Daniel Boyce and his planning team, and for Council's recommendation of providing an additional permitted use for the site light industry with development consent. We as owners fully support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillors, any questions at all for Andrew? Thank you, Andrew. Okay, well that brings to a conclusion our public forum. Let's have a 2-minute break